around 10:30.
Let me check. I'm getting roofs behind. I may have a bunch of plywood.
Comments
Oh, is it really? Oh, yeah.
are gonna be comments.
Hey, we're coming to see you tonight, right?
I hope so. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, Mary's coming, okay.
Good morning.
Oh,
good, good.
I've got the time being 10:48 on Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. My name is Chris Caius. I'm Chairman of the Administration Committee for Kane County, and I'm calling this Administration Committee meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Martin,
Present.
Berman,
Herman's here.
Davis. Davis. Ford, Bras,
Brad's here.
Gums,
Gums here.
Heurog,
Here.
Shepro. Got it.
Davis here.
Thank you.
Caius present.
You have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Then may I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes from May 11th, June 15th, and July 13th, please? Berman moves.
Brad second.
Bras seconds. Are there any changes, discussion? Thank you for getting those for us. Roll call, please.
Martin,
Yes.
Berman,
Herman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Bras,
Brad's yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Yes.
Minutes are approved. There's a finance report is attached, I believe. No report from the finance department. Is there any public comment online or in person? Hearing none, seeing none. Then with the indulgence of the committee, I would like to start this meeting with our presentation from Sheriff Haynes so that he can get going on his.
Thank you, Mr. Caius. I'll keep this brief. I know everybody has their budget presentations. A couple months ago, I talked about the bad need for a publicly supported, county-supported addiction treatment center. We were working on a location on Church Road in Aurora. And we were working also with a community group. It's always best to have a partner in this nonprofit that wanted to go in lockstep with us on this project. And as of noon yesterday, I was going to walk in here and report that although the property on Church Road is a no-go because the city of Aurora refused to permit, special permit that for an addiction treatment center and a transition center, we had found another property at Lake and Gale on the west side of Aurora. It's the former seminary in that town. And we were close to closing, and I shouldn't say we, but the nonprofit group that we're supporting was close to closing a deal. They got a grant for $475,000 that we can use for a property to make this happen. This is cash in hand in their pocket. Our goal from the sheriff's office side is to support the center with some of our asset forfeiture funds, because again, this is going toward preventing drug abuse and drug addiction. So it fits that caveat, and also some of our inmate commissary funds that serves people transitioning out of the Kane County Jail, and also assigning some of our staff, like our reentry specialist, a social worker, and a member of the pre-arrest diversion program out of the state's attorney's office to help operate the facility. So again, I want to make that resounding statement. No general funds would go to this facility. It would be all existing funds on hand and that $475,000 in grant money. As of 5 p.m. last night, there is now an alleged counter offer on the location, and they changed their selling price from $500,000 to $700,000. So we're back looking for a new facility. But the great news is $475,000 cash on hand to make this a reality. So we're back out in the market taking a look as we speak. I do want to briefly touch, if nobody has any other questions regarding that, I want to briefly touch on the Kendall County jail merger here.
Do we have questions first? And Madam, or let's see, a committee member.
Just a real quick
Roz?
question. I know you gave us an overview, but it's been a while. My only question is citing it in Aurora. Obviously it's lopsided south. So do we have a facility already up north, or?
We do not.
Somebody from Carpentersville wants to utilize it. They got to drive 30 miles.
Right. So most of our focus is going to be either through our reentry programs and our A Way Out program for those people that are, again, suffering from addiction issues. Right now, our deputies and our reentry specialists are having to drive people from Kane County all the way down to Chicago or all the way out to Rockford. So for us to have to go from Carpentersville or Elgin down to Aurora, and it is the biggest city, obviously, in our county, it makes sense to us logistically to locate it there.
Okay.
And we have a tentative approval in that area of Aurora, just north of Hesed House, where we would be able to get that special permit from the city.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And then that answers, then Madam Chair, do you have a question or
Oh,
comment?
no, not a question, just a comment of hope. The opioid money is going to be allocated to us probably next year. And that money will be available for those purposes, to my understanding. Of course, state's attorney is going to have to review this without question, but there's hope that if you can't find a facility now, additional funds will be coming through. And this seems to be a wonderful match for that money.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Thank you. Since it deals with space and revenue in the county, I do want to briefly touch on the Kendall County jail proposal to shut down their jail and move their detainees up to Kane County. I'm going to focus a little bit more on this in judicial public safety tomorrow. This was born from the concept that we had discussed early this year, myself and other sheriffs, about combining our female populations into the Kane County Jail. So remember, the disparity of men to women in custody is about 5 to 1. So it's a great deal of manpower to house a very few number of people. Plus, Kane County has services in our jail that many other smaller jails around us just don't have when we talk about addiction treatment, vocational services, job placement, et cetera. So it's very attractive to the other sheriffs to begin discussing this. When Kendall County Sheriff Baird went back to his budget at the drawing table, he realized he was paying about $5.5 million a year to operate his jail. And if he closed the doors and paid Kane County a rate of about $75 a day, which is the tentative agreement we have that we're discussing, he'd be paying Kane County about 1.5 to 1.7 million a year to house their 30 to 40 detainees that would be in custody after January 1st. So it's nothing but a win-win for Kane County. We already have an agreement in place, and we have since 2016 to house Kendall County detainees in our facility and vice versa. So we've already crossed the liability bridges there. We're comfortable with our facility right now. Of course, our population has been cut almost in half of the capacity of the facility, where we have 640 beds and we're at 320 as of today. We're already housing all of Kendall County's female detainees as part of just piloting how this would work. And we're also housing about 4 male detainees, again, just to pilot how this concept would work in the meantime. So again, we're generating that revenue because of our price breaks in the most expensive portions to run the jail, medical and food. If we up our detainee population by 30 to 40 people, it does not up our cost whatsoever. It's already within that budget and within those price breaks. We will not have to add any staff. I have 5 vacant positions right now, and we're offering lateral hire opportunities to Kendall County corrections officers, not even that we need them at this point because of our current jail population. We can absorb them within our current facility and our cell blocks as it sits right now. So, you know, if we look at this from a 30,000 foot level, even down to a 15,000 foot level, because we're diving down each day to take a better look at it, this is a win-win for Kane. Now, when it comes to Kendall County, they have a great deal of questions. The sheriff was hoping to do this by December 1st. His board understandably has many, many questions regarding this. And so he wants to slow play the idea of completely closing their jail throughout the year 2023. But again, we're still going to be generating that revenue as we house detainees from Kendall County.
Thank you for the update. I'm not sure we want to get too much involved in this discussion.
Sure.
I believe you're going to bring it up again tomorrow on judicial, so
I
that
will.
might be the appropriate.
Yep.
I know that we do cooperate with our facilities management through this committee and our building management. So it's important that we keep a line of communication. I appreciate you coming in.
Of course.
And I saw Michelle Gums. Did you have your hand up? Do you still have a question? I apologize. I
Oh,
missed
you know
it.
what? No, that's okay. I was just in reference to Sheriff, if there's anything I can advocate for to permit wise, I would be glad to do that. Didn't understand why they didn't allow that permitted spot on Church.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gums. And then Mr. Davis, did you have your hand up? Did I miss something?
I did, but as the sheriff pointed out, I will have an opportunity to ask that tomorrow in judicial public safety, and that's probably more appropriate.
I think we've got a pretty full agenda here
Yes,
this
so-
morning, so thank you for coming in. And again, with the indulgence, just one more thing, I'm going to have, if Jody Wolnick could come up and give us an update very quickly on the trees, the solar.
Thank you for fitting me in. I just wanted to give you a quick update. We do have a resolution draft on E&E committee on Friday. We've bid the trees out for the solar project the second time. The first time 0 bids were received. The second time a single bid was received. The cost that came in is above what was budgeted by the county board under your direction was $50,000. The cost is higher than that. We're going to try to negotiate with the one bidder tomorrow. And if we have a finalized resolution, we will send it to this committee as well. Given the time of year, unfortunately, we won't be able to come back to this committee, even though the budget does fall under this committee. We really want to get those trees in the ground and have them time to establish before the growing season is over. So I can answer any other questions. Otherwise, we will be in touch with additional information, hopefully by Friday.
Okay, you're not asking for any, no votes today. You're not on the thing there for approval. Okay, Madam Chair, you had a question?
Basically a comment. I understand that we made a promise to our neighbors that there were going to be trees planted, but it's also my understanding because of inflation right now and because of high wages and because of availability, that these products, as you mentioned, are more expensive than they were ordinarily. So is this something, is this a need or is it a want? And if it's a want, can this be deferred until next year to planting of the trees, where hopefully the prices will go down as we've seen inflation decrease to date, gone down by, I think, 6 points. It's down 8.5. So perhaps by next year, it'll be somewhat more normalized and inflationary pressures will not be so strong.
That is one option that's on the table. If we're not able to negotiate with this bidder, that would be the only option because we wouldn't recommend planting them any later this year. We still do have 10 trees from the grant that was received. So we would just need to contract with a smaller landscaper to install those trees this fall.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think, again, because of our fiscal concerns, we have to question every move that we make right now. And if we can put off today what we can do possibly more frugally tomorrow, I think that's a prudent stand to take.
Agreed.
All right,
Thank you.
satisfactory. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, moving on to. our regular-
Just a thought,
Oh, Mr.
Davis.
Yes.
Has Jody, maybe there's something the Forest Preserve District, may be able to assist there. I mean, maybe relationship with some of these contractors or something. Is that anything you investigated?
Yes,
Reach out
we've been
to us.
working directly with Ben Habither from the Forest
Okay.
Preserve. He was able to give us a great number of names. Unfortunately, none of those folks did place numbers for the bid. But we are also working with the Forest Preserve because there is a year maintenance requirement to try to have their assistance to help in watering some of the trees, which would also help to reduce the budget.
You found the right guy. I just wanted to check.
I know that we've had the issue of trees predates the pandemic and the recent
Yeah.
increases in prices, as we found out at the Long Meadow Parkway, where we've had to plant the trees and grow them for 3 years before we can actually get them in the ground. This is a side. Okay, sorry. Any other questions? All right. Well, then this time for sure, Roger, we're going to do Facilities Management Executive Director's Report. Roger Fonstock, Executive
Okay.
Director.
Thank you.
Interim.
So for the executive director's report, I just wanted to make one introduction. So today we have with us Henry Thompson. Henry is joining us last week. He comes to us from a background of building management with hospitals and universities. He's going to be taking over and being the building management director for our group. And we also have a new maintenance director that is supposed to be here today. He is home with COVID. So he's working, helping us with some things, but he is home with COVID, but his name is Matt Walker. So the two of them joined us, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of them as we get into the implementation of some of the changes that this committee asked us to move forward. So we're excited about it. I offered to, have Henry say a few words, but I don't know if he has anything prepared, but he's been kind of baptized by fire this past week. We've been showing him lots of different buildings and different things that we want to do. I think we have a good group of people, and we're going to get a good start. We're going to have a meeting with the entire department scheduled for it might change a little bit, but it was tentatively for next week. And it was to lay out the plan for what we want to do. And we're going to do like a rolling plan for 6 months at a time and reevaluate, and then kind of refine it and then roll it out again. But it involves all the major things that we discussed, like preventative maintenance, how they handle the service desk, how we handle capital. And we've been working on that this week with Henry, so that when we get started, he'll have a good foundation. So welcome, Henry.
Welcome. Yeah,
Yep.
from all of us. Yeah. Me included.
But that's, and the rest will
Hopefully-
defer for the budget presentation, so we
Yeah.
can move to
Hopefully we can get him
resolutions.
introduced in full board next month.
You want to do
When
that?
we do
Okay,
that, yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
Both of them, yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. Continue.
We're ready for the, you want to do the
Oh, that was it.
resolutions?
That
or
was
do
your
you-
report?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to defer to the budget, because the budget's a lot
alrighty.
of material.
Okay,
And also one other item, we're going to be working with Chairman Caius, and we'll be looking to try to figure out a time, either a special meeting or next admin meeting, to dig in deep to the building assessment and the master planning stuff that White has been putting together. We have a lot of progress on that, and we're going to try and put it into this meeting, but I think we're already way into a long meeting. So I figured we could either have a special meeting to do something about master planning and assessment for admin, or next admin committee. So that would be a discussion item.
okay.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, then, resolution authorizing capital projects from the capital fund. May I have a motion? Roz,
Berman second.
Berman seconds. Mr.
Okay.
Bonstock?
So what you have is the initiation of capital projects, and Blair, if you could go down to the table. So what you see in that table is the existing capital projects at the top, and then the new capital projects that we're moving into the program at the bottom. You'll see the Judicial Center boiler replacement, and then you'll see a courthouse camera replacement, which is for 3rd Street Courthouse. The Judicial Center boiler replacement's $452,000. That was the replacement of the damaged boilers that we discussed last meeting. The price came in lower than what we had expected, but I think a lot of that is because of the redesign. The redesign in the proposal involved fresh air intake from outside, and also doing side venting instead of running the flue all the way through the 80 feet of the building. So the price came down, plus we're changing the lineup of the boilers. Instead of going with 2 larger and 2 smaller boilers, we're going with 3 larger boilers. So we're reducing it by 1 boiler, but we're making the boilers a little bit larger and going with 3. So 4 to 3, a little bit larger boilers, fresh air intake, and then also the exhaust is going to be redesigned to go out the side of the building. I will tell you that the last time they did the boilers, the project was about $700,000. So making these changes, we're a significant cost reduction, but I think it's an improvement in the design. It's an improvement in how we'll be handling combustion air, and also how we'll handle the exhaust. So that's been added. You're going to see the emergency purchase affidavit following this, which is us ordering the boilers, and we'll explain that when we get to it. But the Judicial Center boiler project and the courthouse camera project, we rolled that into existing funds. We're not asking for new capital dollars or contingency dollars. There's sufficient funds in the capital program budget this year. So with that, the capital program budget, as it's initiated today, is still at about $6.5 million. And I think, Blair, if you could scroll down just a little bit. Trying to get the bottom number. me see if I can pick that up off of here. So we've to date, actually, I don't have it on there. That's okay. I think we're somewhere still in the capital budget around $4.5 million in capital funds still sitting in the budget. And a lot of that was the programs that we're trying to get off the ground and get started are taking more planning than execution. The demolition projects that we have for Fabian, we have Hydroneering with White doing the engineering for all the tanks and underground work that need to be done. As soon as we get that back, we're going to have a bid package go out, and I think the demolition will start, and that'll draw down our capital funds for that project relatively fast. And then once we get started with the new building management crew, we're going to be looking at the electrical upgrades at the Judicial Center. That'll be another major project that we have to get started. And then the courtroom renovation, the county board approved of the project yesterday for the courtroom renovation, which was another big project that's just getting started. So if you have any questions about the capital, and this is just capital initiation, this doesn't authorize the projects to be constructed. This is just, these are what you agree are the capital projects. So we go out and do the engineering based on this list and bring the bids and the proposals back for the board's approval after we get this done.
And this is all part of our new procedure to make sure
Yes,
that
this is
we're
the
not out over
initiation
the
of it.
skis on having things.
Yeah, we won't start a capital project over $30,000 unless this on this list.
Okay,
Um,
Mr. Froz.
Just a quick question, the item number 7, countywide remediation, is that all related to demolition jobs or what is that?
So they had a number, they were concerned about the underground tanks and the site contamination and other things, I believe, at the Fabian site. And we have the engineering going on right now for that, but I don't know that it's going to reach that level because we did remediation at 6th Street School. When these tanks are a little larger, a little bit bigger, but the cost was not near what the remediation was put in the budget. So
Glad to see the coroner's x-ray equipment. We've been talking about that for years, so.
yes, they bought that when they moved in and we had to put it in this year's capital because of the fiscal year end when they moved.
So it's already in.
It's already
place.
done.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are just the list of projects. One of the things that we are working on, which I've been trying to get back to, is we're trying to get a dashboard view of the projects so that you can see the 5 phases of a project. So you'd see initiation, like planning and procurement, execution, what we do to manage the cost and schedule or monitoring it, and then the closing procedure. So you'd see like 5 steps of a project and you'd see it visually like a graphic. And we're working on building a dashboard for that for all the projects. And you can see where we're at in the progression, and everything will start with this initiation, which is you approving that that's a project.
Madam Chair.
I have 2 questions regarding the list. So I'm seeing here that it's for of course, I can't find it on this list, the JC Solar Project, landscaping and fencing,
Yes.
$100,000. Now, does that include what we just referenced, the trees?
Yes.
Planting of the trees? So the fencing is required, obviously, that's settled.
And I believe they have some money coming from the contractor that is an offset for the fencing. Jody might know.
The fencing amount was for 50 and the landscaping, which was the trees was for 50. The $50,000 for the fencing is upgrading it from the chain link fence to the black aluminum fence that was selected by the property owners in the sections that are visible to them.
Okay. Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarity. So we may potentially, depending upon the trees, when that is finally placed, we may go slightly over that budget amount.
I wouldn't anticipate that, but all things are possible.
All things are possible.
Yeah.
And then just clarity at the JC courtroom renovation, that is for the installation of the necessary requirements to work within the guidelines of the Safety Act. Isn't that correct?
It is related to specifically to the Safety Act, and the budget you approved or the project you approved yesterday was 1.2 million. We budgeted 777,000. Working with Chief Judge Hall and the court administrator, Doug Naughton, we took the balance of the 1.2 million from the Judicial Facility Fund, which is the fees that they have on the court cases. So we receive about $60,000 a month in revenue from that fee structure on the court cases. And between now and January, they'll actually collect enough to cover the additional cost. So when they did the original estimates for this, there were a couple meeting spaces and rooms that they were not considering adding and renovating. And then also they were looking at what technology, equipment, furniture, and things like that needed to be in the building. So it went from the 777,000 to 1.2 by adding 2 new meeting rooms, all of the Zoom and technology and equipment that they were planning to buy out of the facility fund. We put it all into this budget. So you kind of see the whole package. Originally, they were going to buy the technology separately as a separate purchase. So in this way, you see the full cost.
More
It's
realistic.
1.2 million.
So what it really takes.
That's cameras, that's computer equipment, that's all the furniture and the equipment that goes into the space.
And if I may, so I know that there is some interest expressed by this board that the Safety Act may be altered or changed. So in case the Safety Act goes through that and is no longer in existence, will this courtroom be able to be used for other
Sure.
functions?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's designed to be a fully electronic and video-based court. It also has some room for the jury and assembly and things like that in it. So it's really designed to be kind of the next generation of a courtroom for us. It can be used for multiple purposes. The room right now is used as a courtroom. It's just considered the multi-purpose room, but in the front they have what would be kind of a temporary courtroom bench setup that was constructed in the courtroom. So it was never really finished. It's just kind of a roughed in courtroom. And so this would finish it to the walls with all the correct materials and make it look like a official courtroom.
Good, because again, we want to make sure that if we spend any money, and this is
Yeah.
a significant amount of money, it has a long-term need use.
Yes, they will. I'm sure this will serve them for decades.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Fonstock on that? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Oh, yes.
Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Caius.
Guys, yes.
Yes.
Next item, item C, resolution authorizing an
No, I'm sorry. Mike.
resolution. I'm gonna get it under our belts here so we can talk about it legitimately. Authorizing an agreement with White and Company for judicial center boiler replacement, which was just previously mentioned by Mr. Fonstock. Do I have a motion?
Davis
Yes.
moves.
Fry second.
Davis and Froz. Then,
Okay, so as we discussed at our last meeting, you had the 2 reports from IMI and AMS, White and Company. We were looking at the boilers that were damaged, and we made a determination that before winter, we need to replace the boiler system due to the corrosion in the boilers. Unfortunately, from what happened, they're pretty much gonna end up having a very short life and potentially wouldn't make it through the winter. And so the lead time on those is significant. So we had White and Company get the specs and engineering for the replacement of the boilers with all the remediation that was in the studies that we had done. And I discussed the air intake and separate combustion. We're going to be pulling separate lines for each unit for combustion. And then also the exhaust is going to be going out the side instead of through the flue up through the building. There's some material cost savings and labor cost savings in that. And then we're going from 4 boilers to 3. So we'll have 3 larger boilers than the 4 smaller ones that we had. Still have the same capacity and have the ability to have a boiler entirely offline if something's needs to be maintained. The company that did the proposal was AMS under White and Company. They were the proposal that we went with. It was for $452,330. They're 3 million BTU Fulton Endura Plus boilers is what we're purchasing with that, with the full installation. I think we had the details on that in the affidavit. So there was a emergency purchase affidavit that I processed with Madam Chair to get these ordered. We did it as an emergency purchase affidavit and did the purchase that way because of the lead time on the boilers. Where I think yesterday they did a walkthrough for the construction and they're still at like 7 to 9 weeks. So we need to get this done hopefully in October still at the latest. You know, we're still operating with the current boilers. They're still running. We've replaced sensors on some of them that have corroded over and put the boilers into alarm. And even during the summer, we run the boilers to some extent to temper water and to control temperature in the room spaces. So I think, you know, we're okay right now, but I don't know if we want to go through the harsh winter without getting this done. So we expedited this and ordered them. So you're ratifying an emergency purchase affidavit for $452,330 with White and Company, who is managing the project with AMS Engineering for the replacement of the boilers. So it is in the capital budget, which you just saw as a program. So we put it in there and made the adjustments necessary to accommodate it. So we're not asking for anything from contingency or from capital or general fund. It's within the capital budget. That's
And the
pretty much
exciting
the
part is,
decision.
yeah, the flues, it's such a high efficiency boilers that we can run them right out the side of the building there.
Yes, I think,
all
that-
that
and we're getting, the boilers are, my understanding is they're 96% efficiency versus the ones we had purchased a year ago or so were 94%.
No,
So
so
they're
it's even a
2%
little better.
more efficient.
All,
So
all good, better.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Jody?
we
Everything's
didn't,
better?
we didn't lose any efficiency changing. We actually gained some.
Yeah, great. So we don't have to put the flues up through the top and we're also
No,
mitigating the potential for having this type of occurrence happen again
Yeah.
with the damage to the boilers.
the design was specifically to mitigate the things that they felt caused the damage. And then some other things that we've talked with White and AMS about are adding some additional sensors in the actual room where the boilers are. The sensor that we have for the chiller and refrigerant is in an adjacent room. And we were looking at, having additional sensor put in the room where the boilers are for certain types of gases and carbon monoxide, things like that, just so we know the air in the room is safe, not just for the boilers, but for our own people.
Yeah. So at nominal cost, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any questions or comments? This is for the authorizing an agreement with White and Company, the judicial boiler replacement. Seeing none? Roll call,
Berman?
please.
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Bras,
Guys, yes.
Gums,
Guns, yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Yes.
And item D, may have a motion and a second authorizing a contract extension for Kane County Electrical Services. Moved by Ford,
Berman, second.
second Berman.
Okay.
Mr. Constant.
So what you have for the authorization for the contract extension, we did a bid in 2020 for electricians. And in 2020, Kellenberger Electric of Elgin and PESD, which I think is PAR of Batavia, they were both awarded the contract for 2 years. This is a 1-year additional that was a part of the original bid. And then we want to award to Kellenberger and PSD for the 1-year extension. It's about $60,000 per vendor and a total amount not to exceed $116,071.80. It's a budgeted expense for electrical repairs and maintenance of the electrical systems, and we're recommending approval.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Madam Chair.
Roger, are these two companies represent union employees?
I believe they use union electrician or they're following the bid, which is prevailing wage.
Okay.
So we'd have to verify exactly
Okay.
the collective bargaining if they're in a union, but
Uh,
They should be, I believe, in a union.
Very good.
elected.
Thank you.
It'd be good to know. We pass it on.
Fairly certain on Kellenberger. I'm not as familiar with PAR.
Why does it matter?
Oh,
But
because
just
we
to-
care.
Just, yes, we do care. and
It's
we wanna make
prevailing
sure
wage.
prevailing
That's the
wage is being
requirement.
paid.
Prevailing wage. We want to make sure whatever standard it meets is
Just
we-
for
we
the
cover
record,
standard.
86% of contractors are non-union.
Yeah.
Out of order.
Oh. Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
the agreements are
Take
done
that
by
back.
purchasing. So the specifications for the work, I believe by law has to state prevailing wage.
All right.
Um,
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none. Roll call, please. Oh, Mr. Ford, did you have something?
It looks like the numbers need to be probably cleaned up on the, in the resolution. That's it.
I'm sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
It looks like the numbers might need to be cleaned up in the resolution. That's it.
I'm sorry, what numbers?
The dollar amounts.
So one is 63,000. Oh, I see the 5603. Is that
Yeah,
the one
yeah,
you see?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
Michelle added an extra, I think an extra digit there. We'll clean that up. I'll have to ask her what that is. Next
Oh,
to, in the
good catch, good catch.
1, 2, 3, in the fourth whereas, it says 63,5603.
So it would be,
It also says below that too, 53,115.11.
Okay,
And the final.
Karen, do you see where that's at?
yeah, there's extra digits in there. Okay. We can clean that up before it gets to finance. We'll make sure that those are corrected. They're probably in the,
Just for clarification, the appropriation amount's 116 total, but it's
Yeah.
63 per. No,
let me see they're different per, because they were run
Oh, I
out
see.
of different budgets.
Okay.
Let me see if they have the dollar amount, so we correct it now.
The extra digits are the ones to the right of the column.
Other way,
63 and 53.
we'll have to get verification on the actual numbers, so that's, I'm not positive which one's which. Charles, can you see if Michelle can get the numbers for us, maybe before the meeting?
Mama cat's home. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Yes, the mama cat. There you go.
Okay. Let me see that again. Can I add it up real quick, make sure we're correct here?
Good catch, Mr. Ford. I'll have you do my taxes next year.
Hi, good job. You tell her there's a contractor there.
Yeah, he's a contractor. Bottom
Okay.
line, man.
All right, I think we have an answer for you. Let me go back to that. So in the resolution, we would need a motion to amend the fourth whereas to have Kellenberger Electric at 50 or 63,560. 63,560 and the balance to PESD at 52,511.80.
Raz moves to amend to the numbers that were just laid out.
As stated,
Karen, do you need those?
The second one again, please.
52,511.80.
oh,
52,000.
511
Thank you.
and 80 cents. And then the Kellenberger is 63,560.
560, got that one.
so also in the sixth whereas, I think the last figure down there, 116,7181.00, an extra couple zero zeros or something.
I'm not sure what the total is one, and then in the now therefore be it resolved. This is interesting because we reviewed this and I think there's somewhere there's numbers that are being added for decimal points or something, but anyway, the total is $116,071.80 and the now therefore be it resolved. Not sure where they're getting the extra numbers.
Okay, so we have a motion to modify those. We'll
Yep.
just do that really quickly, as per stated.
Board second.
That was Froz and Ford. And then we will have Morris, a second, any other questions? Roll call on the amendment.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Yes.
Okay, now back to the original motion. Was authorizing contract extension for King County Electrical Services as amended. Any other questions? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Now, no, different hat.
Next one.
On
Yeah.
stock, information technology. Go right to the resolution. I'll asking for a motion and a second authorizing an agreement with Tyler Technologies for enterprise law enforcement software and services. Moved by
Davis moves.
Dabbist, second by
Raz.
Braz.
Okay, so this is an agreement with Tyler Technologies. They provide the software for our sheriff's records system. They also do the dispatch for the Canecom and the subscriber agencies that are with Canecom. So what this is doing is implementing the records portion of the sheriff and Canecom with the subscriber agencies. So everyone that subscribes with Canecom for dispatch services would be able to get use of the RMS that we own for the subscribers. And then through Canecom, we're working on the subscriber agreement to incorporate the cost of services associated with adding this. We're doing this as a request from the sheriff and Canecom to allow subscriber agencies to more tightly integrate with what the record system can offer for Canecom subscribers. The cost again is $43,720. And this is an amendment to the existing public safety software and services agreement. It would implement the subscribers this year still on records. It is coming from the public safety sales tax, so it's not coming out of general fund. It's coming out of the public safety sales tax for public safety software. And it's $43,720, and we're recommending approval.
Okay, any questions on this? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes. Item B, 6B. May I have a motion and a second authorizing agreement with DevNet for software license, maintenance, and support. Moved by Ford, second by
Raz.
Davis.
Dabbist.
Okay, so what you have in front of you is the renewal of our DevNet software license agreement. It's software license maintenance and support. DevNet provides the tax administration and tax collection system. So their software is used in the supervisor of assessment office. It's used in the county clerk's office for extension, and then in tax collection and the treasurer and the disbursement cycle. So we use tax administration for probably the last, I think, about 15 years with DevNet, and this is a renewal of the existing agreement for 5 years. A few, maybe a decade, it's probably longer. We went back to DevNet and asked them if they could do vital records, which is marriage, birth, death. They added that component for the county clerk. So it is in this price of $199,594.35 to do all tax administration and vital records for the county. It represents a 5% increase in the software license maintenance support over last year. At 199,000, it's 5% increase. Now, the good part is that they extended that increase flat for 5 years. So it'll increase to 199,594, and it remains constant for the next 5 years. We've been in partnership with DevNet to have this services, like I said, for about 15 years. All of the elected officials and the department support this and are recommending that we extend the contract for the next 5 years with DevNet.
Okay, we're beating the 5-year trend if we can keep it level. Any questions or comments?
One other comment, that the vital records portion of this, which is about $30,000, is paid from the county clerk's records automation funds. So that's listed under vital records as the fund line item.
Okay, any questions? Roll call, please.
Berman. Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford. Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin. Caius.
Caius, yes. 7, Mill Creek SSA. We have item A, a resolution. May I have a motion and a second authorizing a contract for Mill Creek SSA holiday lights and decor services. Moved by
Raz move.
Braz. Berman seconds. Mr. Fonstalk.
So this is for the Mill Creek Special Service Area. This comes from the SSA funds and their budget. They did a bid for the holiday lighting for the SSA and for their neighborhoods. The price for the lighting is $26,570 a year. This is a 2-year contract with Holiday Light and Decor Services, or It's a Wonderful Light. I'm sorry, It's Wonderful Light. Again, $26,570. It is a budgeted expense with the SSA. Again, it has no impact on the county general fund or county funds, and we're recommending approval of this for the SSA.
Okay, any questions or comments from those? Okay,
Berman. Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford. Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin. Caius.
Caius, yes. 7B, continuing the Mill Creek. May I have a motion in a second authorization for Mill Creek Parkway Tree Installation Service Contract Extension? Moved by
Raz move.
Braz, second by Berman.
Okay, so in Mill Creek, again, the SSA has a budget expense for installing parkway trees and trees throughout the neighborhoods. This is an extension of the existing agreement that was bid in 2020. We have a 1-year extension, and it is for $36,047 with Langton Group. It is a budgeted expense within the SSA, does not affect the general fund or the county funds. It's under miscellaneous contractual expenses, but it's budgeted, and we are recommending approval.
Okay, any questions from Mr. Fonstalk? Roll call, please.
Berman. Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford. Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin. Caius.
Yes, yes. Okay, and that takes care of item 7. Item 8, I don't believe there's any vehicles that are up for purchase.
No.
Pass that by. Business, and we took care of that with Sheriff Hayne in previously. So 10, fiscal year budget presentations, A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
This should be interesting. Here we go.
Okay, so this year, we were asked to do all of the budget presentations through the administration committee. And so what we have done is compiled this into a slide presentation. This was updated as of even this morning. So some of the things that we sent out, we are in kind of a fluid budgeting process with finance because of a lot of the requirements for positions and things that are being changed, modified titles, adding things. We're still trying to work through what the impact of the Safety Act is on buildings, office space, how many employees we support. So as we go through this process, we're going to be making adjustments to respond to the types of demands and needs that we see. I was speaking with Finance Chairman Berman about, we're working with finance. We're trying to figure out how much of an impact our budget will have versus what we had last year. That includes things like utilities and energy costs. We put some increases in here, anticipating increases. Some of them are already realized. Natural gas, we already know the price went up significantly, 74%. But other contracts and services, we're looking at, well, if next year snow removal goes up considerably, if other services, water, wastewater, will they go up by 8 or 10% based on inflation? Those are all possibilities for contracts and commodities. So we're anticipating that. But as I mentioned, we're willing to negotiate and work through that as we go through the process. So just keep in mind that some of these are going to change as we go through. So again, challenges for 2023. You're seeing, inflation for commodities, contractual, even capital. And I would add that there's a lot of delay in the supply chain still. We're seeing things that take, 4 to 6 months, maybe longer. Some computers, Charles, 12 months, depending on what you're ordering. If you need to have something special, it can be even longer. Natural gas, that we already experienced the increase in natural gas. We're seeing that in our bill right now. It's 74% over last year energy costs. We went from, I think, $2.71 per decatherm to $4.70 per decatherm. So it went up pretty significant. Jody Walnick and I have been talking with the broker for electric. There was some discussion about, we may see 40% energy cost increase for electric as well. We haven't gotten in a lot of feedback about water from the municipal water and wastewater, but I'm concerned about that. Right now in the budget, they did put increases for water and wastewater, and we're working on that because I don't know that we have good information on what that will be. So we're still working on that. We did the reorganization of the building management department. We have Henry here and Matt starting. That was an adjustment to the organizational chart to add an additional couple people. And then we're also looking at 10% projected growth in county employees and office space. If you adopt some of these things from the Safety Act, it is going to have an impact on the departments that service the offices and departments. It's inevitable. We can't take on 10% more work with the same people that we have. So that's another compounding factor in this. Do you need additional staffing for building management? I'm not talking about incredible numbers, but if you increased our building management staff by 10%, it's 3 more people, 4 more people. IT, it's again, 3 or 4 more people. And what that does is, when you look at adding 50 to 75 people into an office space and you say support all their computer technology, generally we run about 75-1 ratio of people to support those. So you're adding at least 1 person just to do the desktop support, just to be able to keep up with all their questions. And my mouse doesn't work, my email doesn't work. So those are the kinds of things that we're talking about. It's simple, but it's essential to make those people operate in their office. So that's what we're seeing as challenges right now. So what you're going to see, we have some organizational charts. Again, those are a little bit fluid. We're trying to work with finance to make sure we have their position control all accurate. We actually have a couple of discrepancies we're working through in the actual transactions of posting the positions. We need to reconcile a few things, but they're fairly close. You're going to see information technologies budget, a building management department budget. There's a GIS budget, capital, and then Mill Creek. Those are the budgets that you're going to see. These are in a high level summary format that finance recommended. There are detailed general ledger and transaction reports available to you. They're online on the finance page. Every one of our transactions that we posted to these budget line items is posted out there. So what we entered to get the total that you're going to see is out there. I summarized the changes in a kind of a brief explanation. We're happy to talk about those, but I think for today, it was to keep the picture as a big picture. What are we looking at? So that's what we're trying to do. So the organizational chart that you see is kind of how we've organized our effort from the administration committee down. I assume, from administration committee up to Madam Chairman, that's pretty much set for us. We got that. from my position handling building management, this is how we're seeing things right now. You have the IT department, you have GIS, and we have building management, and you have the Mill Creek Special Service area. We have a couple of other small areas that we work with that we take through judicial public safety. We work on the judicial public safety sales tax. We also work on the sheriff side of it, which is public safety, and then the judicial side of it, which is judicial technology. We help with the Kane budget, and we help with the ETSB budget as well. So those are other areas that we're in, but they're not on this chart because we don't deal with people specifically from that. So that's the org chart as we see it. You get into IT, this is impossible to see, but at the top up here are the different divisions of IT. And if I can send a copy of this or get a better rendering of it, they were asking us about putting everybody on a piece of paper or a chart. So the divisions of IT haven't changed. We still have our computer systems, applications and databases, network services and telco. We have administration, GIS, and those are our main divisions of IT. And then this is what we're doing with building management. Again, trying to put this on a single page, this is as best we could physically represent it. But across the top, you're going to see 2 maintenance directors. There's Matt, and then Rick is up there in terms of who's the maintenance team. And then we have Michelle from the administrative office side. And then out on this side, you have Mill Creek Special Service Area. And then Mark Smith from Capital Projects is in there as well. But this is kind of the structure that we're putting in place. You'll see Henry is basically responsible for those different groups of people at this point. This is the, next one. The GIS department, a little cleaner, fewer people involved, but this is Tom Nikowski and GIS, how they're structured. No real changes in how they're structured or the staffing of that. It's GIS. They have their CAD coordinator and GIS manager, office manager, and Tom is Nikowski is still the chief of GIS for us. Those are the 3 organizations. Again, it's hard to see these organizational charts with that many people on them, but this is the real structure as far as our reporting process. I think it's important to note that, like, right now, or as it was in the past, Charles and I handle IT. Between myself and Charles, it'll be Tom and I handling GIS. Charles also works with that. And then executive with building management would be me and Henry. And then Mill Creek is Bill Meyer, and I also work with Drew. And I suppose as this evolves, we'll be getting another board member involvement in Mill Creek as Drew steps aside from the board. Anybody have any questions about the organizational structure that we're working under right now?
He's doing the Serena Williams thing. I have other visions in my life or something.
You do?
Mr. Chair Tuppy here.
Mr. Tepe, yes.
Sorry, Roger, one question is that Mill Creek, you have a person assigned for Mill Creek. Is that paid for out of the Mill Creek funds?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Entirely. And in addition, when we get to Mill Creek, we historically, we haven't really had a cost for all the administrative overhead of Mill Creek. So we added a small amount of money for Mill Creek to pay for administrative overhead for all the other things that we do, which involve everything from procurement to paying bills to paying payroll to using systems that we have. So we added that this year.
Small but sufficient to cover.
It covers it.
And my second question is, how many vacancies do you currently have?
In terms of vacancies in IT or building management?
Both.
I'd have to get you that number. I believe in building management, it's higher. I think, is it about 5, Charles?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't recall.
Yeah, we'd have to go back and look exactly. We just hired another person in building management. So I think it's about 4 or 5 in building management and 3 in IT.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Frost?
Just, excuse me, less frog in my throat. Roger was appointed as interim director of building management. And I assume with this, adopting this new organizational chart, that will come to an end. So I just want to make sure that at some point, we talk about, within the committee, we talk about that new position and the compensation and things like that. I know we had a small interim compensation bump, but just want to make sure that's on our to-do list.
Noted. And I suppose you probably should have, it should be interim executive director on that.
I think with the changes we're making, that we're recommending this be something more long-term because of the impact on IT or as an organization and the building management. I mean, we can go in and say we're half in and half out and try to parse this out as we go forward. But I can tell you right now that Henry, Charles and I are working as kind of
All
a
in.
team,
Yeah.
and that's working well. If we have to keep it to where everybody's in their silo and break it apart, it might be some duplication where, we have to do it a couple different ways to get it done. So we're assuming the most efficient way is that we work together and just get all the work done. So if we
I
have
think-
to maintain those kind of boundaries, we can. Well, that would be different.
Well, okay, Madam Chair.
I appreciate Mr. Frost's position on this, and I do support it. Would you be available to perhaps next month? We can talk about this and making this a permanent position, and whatever budget adjustments we need to make at that point, we can include in next year's budget if there are going to be any salary adjustments to this position. Yeah.
I would be available. Yeah. And I think I'll just get a consensus from our committee.
Yeah, it would, for us speaking, it would need to be discussed possibly in executive session or likely in executive session. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was going to
Mr.
say,
Ponce.
I mean, we have time before finance and executive committee gets this. You may want to have a chance where we would draft something to be a org chart with a job description that encompasses what you would like to recommend. And then you could do the closed session to discuss that, I think. But I think that would take a little bit of work. We'd have to put something together and bring it back. We don't have that.
Yeah, I know we discussed making sure that things are working
Yes.
first and then dealing with this, but as smoothly as things are going, hopefully we'll be able to expedite that. So that's something we can look forward, maybe a recommendation from you or.
We could work on that with, I think it with Chairman Caius, so we could put together the job description that you would want to consider and look at that. And then you could do your own discussion. We could get that out. And then maybe at the next, you won't have the budget done in August or September.
We won't?
No, you'd be lucky if we hit October. So I think you have a little bit of time. October, Mr. Berman.
Well, let's work toward that then
Okay.
with consensus from this committee. All right.
And today, we're not asking you to vote for the budget or not vote for the budget. It's just the presentation. So we're going to go back and go through these each one individually. What you'll see is this is the format that finance asked for us to summarize the budget into. To the left, you'll see fiscal year 2022 as amended. And then as you go to the right, you'll see changes in existing and then new. The new is something that we added to the budget that is different than what you had last year. Changes or increases to things that you already have. So an example would be, we removed a $48,000 position in non-union salary and wages, but we added $240,000 in new. So that's new positions. So what you'll see is these new desktop support, developer, administrator, and telco. These are the things I was talking about, which are in response to the increased demand for services. So again, if you alleviate the demand for services and you don't have all the 10% new employees in office space and computing, you will see us pull back and say, okay, we understand you're not doing that, or you're not trying to support an organization that's 10% larger than what we are now. And that goes across the board. We're seeing that request come through from lots of offices saying they want more people, more, So that's what that represents. So you're seeing our 22 amended go up by to 3,273,000. Corresponding health and benefits go up again from 695 to 796,000. And the total personnel expense goes from 3.7 to 4 million. And that's all based on those additional 4 positions that are supporting the growth of industry, growth of employees and building space and computing power. Below that, you'll see contractual expense. We're at 715,000 last year. We're adding to the existing expense. This is increase in contractual consulting, repairs and maintenance. You're going to see it go up considerably. It's 33%. And we go from 715 to 955. A lot of this is based on the fact that we did so much to increase our footprint during COVID, and we're trying to maintain that, and we don't have the COVID dollars. So we have a lot of equipment, video, computers, Zoom, technology contracts out there, and then also our existing contracts looking at potentially 10% increases. That's what we're seeing. We do have in the ARP a request for the ARP money to help us offset the equipment and cost. We haven't received any of it. So, that's a question that's out there. If we can offset some of that expense by maintaining that through ARP money or looking at some of the equipment differently than we have in the past. But for now, that's what we're estimating. Again, we're going to be working with finance, trying to fine tune this, get it to what we think it absolutely has to be. Commodities, we see supplies and fuel going up. The price of fuel doubled almost, not quite. Let's say 70% increase in fuel, 60%, those types of things. So in our budget, you're seeing IT go from 4.6 million to 5.1. I would attribute most of that to staff and inflation. So we have more people, handful more people, and we have additional cost of contractual and the commodities. So if you have questions about the IT department, we did have 43 people last year, and with the 4 additional, we'd be at 47. But that's still, again, numbers that we're working through with finance right now, as far as how many positions and how much the contractual increases are. These numbers came through, I think, last night. As late as last night, we were updating them. So
Thank you, because the numbers I have here that I'm looking online at your report
yes.
posted, it's the prices are going up as we speak.
Well, we were working with finance and they gave them to them. And I said, I don't know if I'll be able to get them into the report, but I want to show you what the latest is. So we redid these this morning. So I can send this out again. Any other questions? Yeah, keep updating. We'll try to update it next time and go down.
Yeah, up, down. You down date it?
And be encouraging. But that's IT kind of in a page. It's, you do have the detailed transactions out there if you want to look at, kind of the details of it. But this is the summary page that they wanted us to share. I think that's pretty concise what the increases are.
Yeah, that's
And we tried to make it to
sobering.
where, well, if you went to a 0 over last year approach, which is not uncommon in budgeting, we know exactly what you have to do to take it out to get it back down to where it was. But at the same time, if you go and add the 10% to all the other areas and we get less than, or 0 or less, we can tell you that it probably will not be a favorable position to be in.
Yeah.
So the next item we have, if you don't have any questions on that, is building management. And this is, let me make sure I got the right slides, because they took the,
Wow.
interesting. They took the building management department slide off the top. So
Headline.
this is, yeah, this is it. Okay. I was looking at the top for they usually have the title slide, but they didn't have that in there. So, okay. So revenue didn't change. The revenue is from leasing of properties and rental fees that we have for a small amount of property. Headcount is the same at 29. I will tell you that we're changing the titles and roles. So you see them below as adding project, adding maintenance workers, adding light maintenance special pay, and I'll describe what that means. But we didn't change the number of people. What we did do is we added the upper level of the management team and non-union salary, and that was $275,000 of this number. And then adding an additional portion for a project manager and a maintenance worker, added another about 150,000 to that. So there's about 300,000 of this is the new management structure that was added last year. And then we added about 40,000 of it for a project manager and about another 100,000 in costs for light maintenance and maintenance workers. So when we say light maintenance special pay, one of the things that we're looking to implement is the IT department has 9 people that do help desk support. So we support computer systems throughout the county. And what we're looking at is they have a call center where they answer the phones, they enter the tickets, and then they go out and they do work on different locations throughout the county. What we're looking at is adding a stipend or an additional pay amount to have them do light maintenance instead of our more senior maintenance people going out to change light bulbs or move chairs. We could potentially have people that are already out in the field doing computer support do certain light maintenance. And so we put in, I think, Charles, was it $20,000 or $30,000?
I think 36.
36,000 for light maintenance for those additional pay for those nine people to be doing additional maintenance work while they're out. They are on the lowest end of our pay structure. So those people, the least expensive people we could have doing light maintenance, as opposed to having a $80,000 maintenance worker who should be working on an HVAC system moving chairs. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with those numbers as far as the salary and wages. Again, this part of it, the salary and wages, is also causing the increase in benefits. So 508 is salary and wages, 200 is benefits. Again, if you extract the additional positions out of there, you're going to get much closer to what we agreed to middle of the year with the management and reorg. So the second you pull back and say, go back to where we were, you're going to probably see this number of 712,000 drop in half. So that's kind of the proposition to get back to zero over last year. But in this scenario, you go from 1.8 to 2.5 million. And that's with the additional people or positions that we have identified. In terms of contractual, again, this is where those energy costs and the contractual expenses, you see the costs going up. This has 2.2 million last year. If you increased it to do all of the necessary janitorial repairs, roads, buildings, grounds, and equipment, we were looking at what they've done this year in terms of the contracts, the increases, and then additional work that we're seeing that's needed for things like snow removal and the grounds. There's a lot of deficiencies that we have that we think could be remedied by doing more. And that's included in here as well as the 10%. So again, if you say, you want to reduce this back to where you were at last year, you still might have 10 to 15% in this number, but it won't be at 26. There's additional work that we want to be picking up to make the grounds and the roads and the services look better. Commodities, this is where the energy costs come in. That is the energy numbers. The 1.4 million is 40% electric and 74% gas increase. It literally, it makes up most of that 1.4 million. So 74% natural gas is a tremendous amount. It's just incredible. Our gas bill went from, I think, around $6,000 last month to over 10. So, and that's not in the winter heating season. That was now
Yeah.
air conditioning, electric, think, so, if you take out the energy and gas and the increases in contractual and you reduce the number of people that you have here, you're still probably in the, somewhere in the 15 to 20% range, because you can't get away from the energy prices. So say, 6.2 million to 9 is a tremendous increase. And then you look at the energy and contractual expenses that we're going through, and a lot of it is tied to that. So even if you don't have the additional people, I don't know that you can get this back into the 1 pound bag that you had last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the energy costs will change. And in fact, we might see water, wastewater go up as well, which right now they have a number factored into water, wastewater, but we need to refine that. I think it'll go down from where we're at, the water, wastewater, but it's a small number compared to gas and electric. It's a very small number. So you're seeing the net difference is in these two numbers. So 2 million in commodities and contracts, 700,000 in people. So that's our recommendations regarding building management. Those are the tough two. The other ones are easy. So, if you have no
This is
questions.
the good news then.
Yes.
Oh, you have a question? Yes, Madam Chair?
As I'm looking at the budget, I see capital expense. Is that? What about just general maintenance? I'm sure that's in the budget line to repair roof leaks,
Yeah.
gutters,
So-
whatever's.
The way the county's budget has operated, the capital funds are separated out from the department. And the way we look at capital is that the capital is an investment by the board in their infrastructure, buildings and equipment. And it's maintained in a separate fund. So it's not the department's money to spend on anything. It's the board's money to spend on capital they want. So we separate that out for both IT and for building management. You'll see that in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the GIS budget, which this comes from a special revenue. It's a recorder's fee. And I was speaking with Tom Nikoski, the chief of GIS, before this meeting about how the fund balance is doing and how we're doing as a special revenue fund. And he was explaining to me that he still has a fund balance that exceeds his fiscal year budget, which is good position to be in. This is based on recorded fees. So you get the fee with the property being bought or sold, or even in refinance, we get fees. And Tom was saying that the refinance is not as popular right now. So our fees are down a little bit, but we do have the reserve fund balance to offset any expenses that we have at this time. And Tom and I were discussing whether or not we should do a fee study to see if our fees are in line with our expenses. So we're going to look at that as well this year. You don't see much of an increase in this. This is 1.86 to 1.897. Head count, no change. Payroll accruals are in there, which is the days that are included in one fiscal year or the other to balance payroll. And then you have an increase due to contracts. They added some money for their contractual services, and then commodities and their capital expenses and their transfer to IT for their support with us is the same, relatively speaking. So the 2022 budget is 1.86 and the 2023 budget is 1.897. Again, this is all recorder's fee money, recorded fees on property transactions. So the balance or the difference between these two is covered by the fund balance. So there'll be an adjustment to match revenue and expenses. But that's the GIS fund. It's relatively the same as it was last year. I think the only change will be we will do the fee study to see if our fees are in line with the services we offer. Any questions on GIS? Okay.
Question?
So this is the capital projects budget for the IT department. We had a lot of routine replacement, capital replacement. And a lot of our capital replacement is based on desktop computers, network switches, printers, monitors, those types of things. And the detail of it is in the detail ledger report or the transaction report. But what you're seeing is that we reduced the capital expense by 319,600 from 2.4 million down to 2,094,000. And again, there are things in this for e-discovery for the state's attorney's office. There is a forensic computer system for the state's attorney's office. Those are $210,000 in capital expenses specific to state's attorney. And then ours, is already, down 319. If we took those out, we'd be down another 210. A lot of that is that we bought a lot of equipment throughout the COVID period, and that equipment's still serviceable, still working well. So we're not looking at as heavy of a replacement cycle this year. And at the same time, we're looking at the ARP money coming either to help us replace the 30% additional equipment that we bought, or we're going to have to start taking a different approach and downsizing or pulling back on some of the things that we expanded to during COVID. We have a lot of equipment that's out there, probably 30% more than we had before COVID. It's not aged out, it's not old, it's not obsolete, but it's coming. So the question is, do you continue to use that? And then you have to replace it. So that's kind of the proverbial cliff, right? When it gets old and you can't use it anymore and you need to replace it, and it's 30% more than the last time you did it. That's probably 2 or 3 years, 2 years from now. So we're looking at that. We did submit to ARP to get some capital funds to help with the replacement of the equipment that was associated with COVID. So we're hoping that some of that will offset our capital expenses through the end of the ARP funds, but none of that's guaranteed. So again, our capital budget's down 319,000 from what we asked for last year. Okay. The next is the transaction report. I put this in there just so you can see kind of the distribution of what we asked for in capital, because the summary report that you see here doesn't tell you anything. I mean, it's just number. But this is what's in there. This is what we buy with that money, and it's a breakdown of the costs associated with it. And the most expensive things are this storage system, and then this other item in here is switches and routers, network equipment. And then, we have our routine desktop replacement is in here. You'll see it at the top, 360,000, and laptops, 202,000. Storage systems. When you hear the state's attorney's office and the sheriff and them talking about storage, that's what we're going to spend next year in storage, $500,000 to buy more storage just to store electronic data. And we do it in a redundant fashion so we can store it and have duplication so we don't lose data.
Is that going to be enough going forward as they keep on increasing over a period of time, but we have to additionally buy more servers for the storage?
That is what we're planning, is buying in increments. So the way it works, you don't have to buy it all at once and sit on it, as a storage system. You buy incrementally. So every year we're looking at buying a certain amount. And the question is are we on the right baseline, and are we on the right trajectory? Are we buying enough every year to keep up with everyone? Right now we are. We're buying enough. As they start to change their program and they add things that we didn't anticipate, we might have to make some adjustments and buy more or less. But that's what it's designed to do. A lot of the things they're talking about right now may end up becoming a contractual service, and somebody else may be storing it for them. This is what we're seeing right now. If they add services that move in a contractual way in which the contractor stores the data for them, it might change our trajectory. So we're paying someone else to store it as opposed to buying it ourselves. It's a little bit more expensive to do it that way, but
to contract out rather than
Yes.
self-serve.
Yep.
I know we've got the space available to put the servers.
yes.
And this seems to be going to be a annual cost that will go on forever and a day. Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you buy online evidence software solution, it's a recurring cost. It does go on as a service. If you buy and own the storage, you do pay maintenance on it. Usually the maintenance is somewhere in the, let's say 15 to 20% per year. So that $50,000 storage may result in us paying maintenance of $50,000 to $100,000 to maintain it every year. But that's budgeted in our contractual services. So we maintain storage for the entire county. I don't know, the last time I looked, we were several hundred terabytes of storage. That's terabyte with a T. So it's a big amount of storage out there.
That's so big, I don't even know what it means.
It's more than will fit on your keychain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big storage system. It's very fast, high performance. It's very responsive. We use it for all of the network servers. We have, I think 730 was the count for servers last time, around that number, around 730 servers and about 1,400 users on it. So it's pretty robust. I mean, it can handle a lot. And we have a team of people in our computer systems group that they baseline that and they monitor it for usage. And they tell us how much more they need based on our numbers. So it's all metered out and calculated so they know how much we're using and where we'll be in a year, 3 years. It's hard to tell 5 years, really hard to tell.
And am I looking, are you pointing for things for people up there?
Yeah, I'm on here. Yeah.
Yes, I can't see that.
Okay.
Which, when you're talking about storage, which line item are you talking about?
So
The
where
server?
it says Trinity SAN storage, Trinity SAN SSD, you'll see it out to the right. It shows up as a $500,000 on total amount.
Uh-huh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a big two storage units.
Okay.
And then you'll see at the top of the list is $360,000 for PCs
Yeah.
and $202,500 for laptops.
Those are
What you're
small.
seeing is the ramp up of replacing all that equipment. We're moving from what we used to do at 300 units a year to closer to 400.
I'll try not to drop my computer
So
again.
it's about a third. But that's what we're looking at. You'll see other things in there that may be of interest. Switches and routers. We have a lot of switches. Switches are basically the network equipment that the phones and the computers plug into. We probably have 150 switches throughout the network. We're in 30 buildings. Everything you plug in, computers, phones, wireless, all of it goes back to a switch. So that's the fabric of our network. We also run video on that. So we run the video camera systems off of that switch fabric as well. So that's kind of the one of the most critical and important systems that we have. And then at the bottom, you see the discovery system from state's attorney at $130,000 and $80,000. If you see the Fred machine, that's a forensics machine. It's to do computer forensics for computer crime, for things they want to investigate. So, but that's the capital for the IT department.
Everybody's brain all loaded up now, overloaded. So this was just detail on the IT. Were you gonna?
Just IT, building
okay.
management's next.
Oh, we're gonna go through that too.
Real quick. No,
Okay.
not real quick. I'm sorry. All right. So building management, again, you see the kind of the
Sure.
simple view of the budget summary. And last year we were at 6.5 million. There's a $743,000 increase, which is specific to the public defender's office renovation. They submitted a capital building request to get their office renovated. So we went from 6.5 million to 7,250,000 in fiscal year 2023. So the detail on that. So this detail involves basically a budget that is prorated or distributed evenly across a 5-year plan. And I'll show you what that looks like. So we've been working with White on the building assessments, and there's a detailed sheet. It's about 16 pages long of all the assessment of the buildings, that's why we want a special meeting. I don't think you can go through that today with everything else. But what it does is it identifies these buildings and it tells you what is in a critical condition or a short-term condition or long-term. And if you add up the short-term and critical, you come up to that number, which is the first total 5-year plan column for those buildings, and that's $24,565,000. So the far left is the building, and then you have the total 5-year plan, which was the $24,565,000. That's only dealing with critical and short-term needs within the buildings based on the assessment of the buildings. It does not deal with this campus because at the time we were looking at this campus as whether or not you're going to invest in this place long-term or not, or short-term. Anything critical, we obviously would address, but as far as investing in the buildings for long-term, we're probably going to be evaluating that as we go, and whether or not you want to, rebuild these buildings versus maintaining our campus at the Judicial Center. So this is focused on the buildings that we know are being retained, and then this site would only get what's necessary to replace. So what we did is we took the $24.5 million, knowing that you're not going to give us $24.5 million in 1 or 2 years, and we divided that and did even distribution over the next 5 years. So that's as simple as it gets based on the buildings, doing about $25 million over a 5-year even distribution. And I thought that might be the easiest way to explain the 15 to 20 pages of assessment and itemization. The report is out there. We can get it to you if you want to see the assessment. I think it would be good to have this meeting where we discuss the assessment and go through, the building assessment together. It would explain the 24.5 million in detail. And I think that would be a good exercise. But for this, I just gave you the equal distribution over 5 years.
Mr. Chairman? Ford,
Yes, sir, Mr. Ford.
What we're talking about here is this all maintenance
This is all the capital that you would put into your buildings
or maintenance?
to maintain the asset. Yes. It's not
Maintain-
just the maintenance.
Maintain or replace?
It's not maintaining contracts. It's maintaining the asset.
Right, right.
Yeah. So big machinery, air conditioning, heating,
right.
boilers, chillers. It involves the envelope, which is the roof, the emergency
gotcha.
systems, alarm panels.
So it's repair/replace if necessary,
It would be replace and upgrade or rebuild.
rebuild, right? Okay.
Yeah. Repair, replace. Repair is more maintenance.
Mr. Martin?
Is it a fair presumption that the $5 million a year is a pool of resources? So depending that the $5 million, the $4.9 million every year is a pool of resources. You're not limited in each to each line item.
Yeah.
So if you each year, then within the department, you would make issue or you would exercise discretion on which of
Yes.
these items.
We would initiate the programs based on the capital like we did earlier. We would initiate the programs based on this breakdown. What program do we do in each of these buildings based on the assessment? So we're going to initiate the programs based on this as a high level outline by building, but each program would be something that the board would initiate as a program. So one of the big items in there is to rework the chillers in the Judicial Center, and I believe the roof at the Juvenile Justice Center is one of the items. And I'd have to look at Third Street Courthouse, but those are big items. In discussing this with Henry and Charles, one of the things that we were talking about was the critical short-term items that are really large value, large cost, to be sure that those are programmed first. because it's easier to come back for contingency or for something that's a smaller dollar amount than it is to come back to say, I need the $2 million for the, the chiller system. So trying to address the largest of the capital items as a priority, especially large and critical, so that those are taken care of and the large systems in our buildings function well, they're well maintained and working properly. It's easier to make up or do things to address the smaller systems when they have a failure or they have a problem. It's a lot smaller dollars, it's a lot smaller impact. But planning the major capital, which is what we're targeting in those 3 buildings, is the responsible thing to do. So you won't see the major appliances come up as a surprise.
With a big
Yeah.
budget.
But you have to, it's like, how do you want to present it? If you want the itemization of it, is in that assessment report. And that's the 16 pages of detail. So.
Mr. Caius,
Yes, Madam Chair.
I know you mentioned this. So what we're looking at the government campus is simply just to maintain at
Yes.
the, okay, that's fine.
So
With-
it would be covered in the operational maintenance budget that you saw earlier. It's not in the capital investment side at
So
all.
I think we're just literally saying that until otherwise directed, we're just going to do minimally required to maintain this campus.
We'll repair it at its current condition.
Correct. Okay, very good. Thank you.
So that's the capital budget. Again, it's based on that even distribution, and then we added the additional public defender renovation portion to it. That's related to Safety Act.
May I reflect back just
Oh,
on this
yes, Madam
campus?
Chair.
Thank you. I've been very concerned about accessibility here. Does that capital budget include, or can it include making sure that this, at least the bottom floor here for services is accessible, meaning an appropriate door to open up for those individuals who are in a walker or a wheelchair?
So we did an initial assessment under last year with Cordigan and Clark. I think it was a year or 2 ago. And once you start attempting to make this building ADA accessible or compliant, you get into making the entire facility, because the grandfathering that is in effect essentially goes away and you have to correct. And we got up to, I believe, the initial discussion was in the $700,000 range to do all the door openings and the openers and the, different thing. It got fairly steep quickly, but that was a different time, a different architect. We could certainly talk to White and Company about what our options might be as far as helping with the, not necessarily compliance, but with improving access. Getting compliant to ADA is kind of a holistic thing as opposed to piecemeal. And once you start down that road and renovate, I believe they're going to want you to do the entire renovation to get up to code.
I can appreciate that, but if, of course, with
Yeah.
permission, it may be something that you may want to consider looking at, just accessibility so that the doors are opened up appropriately. Because it truly is, even just for people just coming in, it's very awkward.
Mr. Chairman, what I would recommend is that we could do an architect or a proposal from White to initiate a capital project. So we would initiate a capital project just to say, how much would it cost us to do all the write-up of the recommendations for this building? And we could get a proposal for what it would cost to do the analysis of the building
This is for accessibility.
for accessibility. And we could get that put into like an estimate of what it would take to add those types of features and how far do we have to go or how little can we do? And they could tell us, but we would add that as a potentially like a capital project this year to look at it, do the study. We could do that potentially.
Well, it's more information. We've talked about whether we're gonna stay here or move someplace else, and that's part of the figures we've bandied about is it's too expensive to stay here because we can't fix it up to where it's ADA compatible.
Yeah.
So comments from the,
Mr. Chairman, Board.
Mr. Ford?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, but it has a, and I think Rogers has said it, is that based on how far do we have to go and how far we can go. Because if we get totally into the handicap accessibility, and I clearly understand what Madam Chair says about getting into the building, if we can get that done, that does sound like a good thing, but the other steps and things have changed within the last 5 years with handicap accessibility. And because we're a commercial building, and that's the biggest difference, that it changes even at all the desk, all the counters that for approaching the handicap accessibility at the counters changes too with that. And we can't even discuss bathrooms in this place. I mean, it's.
One of the areas, and I know Madam Chairman's brought it up several times, is parking.
That's the other one too.
Yeah.
And we, if we're at code, we have to have more handicapped accessible parking at grade and at entry points. So once you start trying to comply, it's how much of your parking lot are we gonna, when you go to the grocery store and you see all those parking spaces that are for ADA, that's because they had to build it to code to be compliant.
That's some reason.
And we can't do it.
Yeah.
We don't have the space to do it in the front out here. So.
And
Frost, comment?
I was just gonna mention that we put a new generator, which I want to say was 450,000.
Sure.
The CCTV, what was that? Didn't we just upgrade the security?
The sheriff's.
Yeah, didn't we do this building too? I thought we did a substantial.
We did the sheriff and judicial center building was about 5 million.
Yeah, anyways,
Or
yeah, I just-
security cameras?
Security
Yeah,
cameras.
Yeah,
just wince every time we start talking about a 6-figure improvement to this building. So
Yes, sir.
if somebody's not making us do it, I'd rather make the decision about moving or not first and then make that commitment after if we need to.
we did, okay, I'll let the board speak first.
And to the point of Drew's comment, it costs a heck of a lot more to retrofit a building to meet these codes than to build a new building that complies. So I too shudder every time I see a big number connected with bringing this campus into compliance with any current regulations, as long as we can sit with it and hopefully constructively anticipate doing something different.
Yeah, well, just my, the question here is we keep saying that it's going to be really expensive. Were we asking the question, do we need to know what that expense would be before we can make a decision that
I'm
it really is
recommending
more
we could
expensive?
get a proposal from White to do the assessment of the building.
Is that where we're
I
going?
mean,
It's more like that.
who's driving this other than, I mean, has there been a lot of complaints?
Other board members? Complaints about,
I mean, I just haven't heard any complaints.
go ahead, Madam
from
Chair.
constituents, I witnessed it. Literally have witnessed it. And I think I shared that with the board and a very hot day, helping a woman who's just about ready to faint to get up a parking lot because of the accessibility to get up to the 3rd floor so she can do her senior tax exemption. Yes, I know it's online, but this particular woman, as will the other women who are up there, and she was with a walker, trying to do what she felt was best for her family and her needs, to do it individually. And try to get through all of these ins and outs. And her comment saying, King County doesn't do well for us seniors. They make it very hard on us. And it just, yeah.
We have an inherent responsibility to make it as accessible as possible to everyone, whether anybody's complaining or not. It's nice that they don't complain. I
I guess I
admire them
just don't
for that. They
understand. I mean,
struggle
we
a
have
lot, but-
handicap parking, we have a ground level access to an elevator.
And if, one of the other things I asked Mr. Onzik, just out of curiosity yesterday, when he felt financially we could go to bond for a new building, because I know that that's very important. And he mentioned around 2029, 2030. Because we already in bond. And when the multipurpose center, because I think we've suspended that, we're just making interest payments on it. That bond will be starting to be payable in next year, the couple of years. I forgot the exact amount, and Mr. Onsick can certainly share that with you. So the bottom line is, this is 22. We're looking at potentially 8 years out, maybe 7. So is this an investment we want to make for that short term for a building? But it is a significant vantage point that's out in the distance. It's not like 2 years from now.
I think
Okay, I guess my point would be that the study of it isn't buying it. I mean, the knowledge is inherently valuable, and it would add to the discussion that when we know what the real figure is, to say, can't do it for sure, as opposed to the anecdotal. Mr. Martin.
Unless we're presuming the possibility, realistic possibility, that they made an error in the original estimate of what it would cost, why are we spending money to get a new one? Yeah, can't we just add an inflationary aspect to it?
we could look at that too. Yeah.
mean,
I'd have to get the detail off of what.
I mean, they
Corrigan
gave us
did.
a number.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna presume incompetence in having done it.
Yeah.
But hiring another consultant.
Sure. Before we
Oh,
jump
not
into
be
it,
less.
let's find out where we're at.
Get the
You
copy
think?
of what was done and.
All right.
I think a lot of it dealt with, the entrances, the doors, the bathrooms, the automatic openers on the doors and egress in emergencies, things like that. And it got pretty extensive once we started looking at it. So. Okay, so that's the capital. Again, we have the detail, but I do think that special meeting or next meeting, we could go through the entire assessment and go through, because there is some discussion about also the, facility master planning, where does this take us? Jason Dwyer is here with us today. I told him we're going to be doing budget, so I don't know if we didn't plan on talking about all of the other stuff because of time. But we do want to get that on the schedule to have a pretty deep conversation without a lot of other agenda items, just for that.
This other stuff will get us too
Yeah.
tired to
So
work on the rest of it.
The
Yeah.
last one is easy, I think. The last budget is Mill Creek. So this is a special service area. This comes as a part of their levy for the Mill Creek property owners. The revenue is slightly increased to $1,010,000. And what we're using is cash on hand or part of their fund balance to cover the additional expense. What we did in this process is we maintain the head count for a full-time coordinator and part-time GIS mapping. And then there's a payroll accrual and healthcare included in that, those increases. So you'll see the total payroll expense go from $98,066 to $98,742 in total payroll expense. And then as you go down to contractual, this is where that increase comes in. We go from $636,000 to add $222,000. And we go up to $858,000. So there's a lot of increases in contracts and services. The other part is that we were specifically adding money to do more landscape, more tree work, more work with the sidewalks, and then also some of the patch and repair of the roads. The residents through their meetings express that time and time again. So we know we can't necessarily go resurface all the roads and replace all the sidewalks, but given the fund balance that they have, we're trying to increase the expenditures on those target areas that the residents mention the most. But it's not a commitment to fix them all. Obviously, we're trying to meet out the funds that we have to fix the things that we can. And I think it'll make good progress in that regard. as you see, the commodities, that's an increase in supplies and utilities for the office rental that we have. And then we removed contingency and put that entirely in the budget as expenses for contractual and roads. A lot of the things that they did for electrical work, which is a contractual expense, they were taking out a contingency. We just eliminated that and put it into the actual maintenance budget. And, you know, instead of calling it kind of the slush fund contingency, just put it in there. And then the other part is that they have a healthy fund balance, which is not on this budget revenue and expense sheet, but their fund balance, in talking with finance and with Drew Fraz about the budget that they have, trying to maintain 25% of their $1 million budget for cash. And then also knowing that their only revenue is from property taxes at December 1, when we start the fiscal year, making sure that they have half of the budget in cash in their fund balance in order to be able to pay bills until they get tax collection middle of the year. So they start the year, they have to have roughly $750,000 in their fund balance to get through property tax collection in June, and the money shows up in July. So they're maintaining a fund balance right now of about 1.2 million. And we believe they'll be in excess of that by the end of the year, which means we can take some of the cash on hand and pay more to do more maintenance. So that's what we're trying to take, a small amount of that, which is $125,000, and mobilize it to do more maintenance and repairs in the neighborhood. And we'll still maintain that $750,000 at the start of the year. We'll be in excess of that, I think, by maybe 400,000. And that gives us $400,000 in the fund balance that could be used for a budget adjustment if we had something come up that we needed to, but it's not budgeted for expense. So you see the budget goes from 884,000 to 1,010,000 for Mill Creek. That's covered by the special service area and their property tax levy. So that's what we have for Mill Creek right now. This is going to be reviewed by their advisory board, I think, at the next meeting. We're going to have budget detail for them.
Oh, Mr. Martin.
One of my questions was relative to reserves, and that's
Yes,
been
sir.
answered. Well, we had an issue, I think it was last year, that related to whether or not we had insurance coverage to the protection of the county in a liability context.
Yes,
And,
they pay the county for liability.
but are we, as the county, insured? The issue was money that was part of, it was a judgment or a negotiation related to
Settlement.
the settlement that was looking to the county coffers. And my question is that, do we have insurance for any exposure that we might have?
My understanding, and we can verify this, is that the SSA pays the county to be on their policy. And it's not expensive. It's in the thousands of
Well,
dollars.
it's not, but the exposure could be significant.
On our
if it
policy.
wasn't there. So I just wanted to make sure that we are an insured entity. So if somebody gets in an accident and our administration is deemed to be,
I believe we're on
actionable.
the same policy even. It's not additionally insured
Okay,
or named. We're
just-
the same policy.
well, you know, my concern, that's
Sure.
as long as it's there.
Yeah, we can verify that, because that was a question we had, was how does that work? I think one of the advisory board members asked about that, and we found it. We found where they pay the county every year to be on our policy. And then the county's policy includes them and covers
Okay.
them.
All right.
And that's why the board was brought into the settlement discussion, is because it is on your policy. That's what I understand of it.
Did you have a comment? Mr.
Yeah, and so, yeah,
Roz?
we did take that comment to heart and looked into it. They do pay their fair share of the cost of the policy. And also, I just want to be clear, when Roger mentions paving of roads, it's just in this little downtown area
Yeah.
that the SSA maintains, not all of the roads. That's a Blackberry Township Highway Department
Yes.
project. But yeah, the SSA has been operating under a kind of a austerity for a few years now, because some of our reserves are used to balance the budget. The SSA has never taken its full allotted amount of tax revenue that it can. And the board agreed to recommend to this board that they up the tax levy, or I shouldn't say that, tax levy stays the same, but take a larger percentage of what they're authorized to take. So this year is the first budget where we've actually had maybe $300,000 roughly in rough numbers of extra money. So
Yeah.
we're going to be able to do a few more projects that we've been wanting to do, and hopefully also increase our, now Roger, you used the term fund balance and contingency and reserves.
Yes.
They all sound the same to me, but we want to rebuild our reserves because we actually spent them down a little bit trying to cover some projects. And Mr. Anzek recommended that we have, I want to say it was about 250,000 in reserves.
You have to have that in your cash for your, operating. And then I'm saying another 500,000 when you start the fiscal year, because you're not going to collect tax revenue until July, really. So you want to be able to pay your bills the first half of the year. So if we start the year with the money, you could do month to month cash flow, but it's much safer if you have the money in hand December 1, and they have the money to do it now. So I think keeping that December 1, operating fund balance at that level means you start the year and you're good until you do first tax collection, first installment, and then you're good for the whole year.
So 2023 is a big budget year for Mill Creek because we're going to have this little bit extra funding coming in.
Yes.
And be able to build back our reserves and also be able to spend on a little bit projects that we put off from year to year. So things are kind of getting back on track a little bit out there. And the whole thing with the reserves is, what if a tornado went through and we had to spend $50,000 or $100,000 on special projects real quick? So I think we'll be in really good shape with this budget that's as proposed.
Mr. Martin.
I have another question. The board member from this district bears, at least in my mind, a disproportionate responsibility to constituents as compared with.
So you're going to give me a raise just as I'm leaving?
Well, that's somewhere buried away in here is a question of, in my mind, of whether the residents of Mill Creek are getting an administrative benefit. I mean, my constituents don't involve me. I'm sure everybody else in this room would say the same thing, to the degree that you or your successor are going to be involved with out there. And if you didn't do it, to me, there's a function that goes beyond your generic county board responsibilities in here. And in my mind, I keep wondering if there's an administrative responsibility that they ought to be paying for, or something occurs. I mean, you've been very generous, Drew, with your time, and you have credentials that enable you to really make a lot of these decisions. What if you didn't?
Yeah, it's a very unique thing that we always try and educate the newer board members about. Mill Creek is an unincorporated community of 4,500 people. So it's pretty much about the size of Alburn. But the county administers it and there's no city council. So our SSA meetings are kind of even though it's an advisory capacity, are sort of like a city council meeting. And I'm kind of
that's my point. You're part of the village administrative staff here, and
it got
I don't know. Maybe it's a problem that doesn't.
Well, once the county, years ago, there was no staff, from the county out there. So, when somebody called about a cracked sidewalk or a dying parkway tree, I went out and took care of it. So now that we have, Bill Meyer and his predecessors handling that, it's gotten quite a bit easier. So
I think, if Mr. Chairman, when Drew, is retires and is no longer in that capacity, the question is, do we have another, board member that, that's from that district that is going to fill that capacity? Staff, we're certainly in a position where we can kind of handle the meetings and transition. They only meet once every 2 months, and I've been with Drew at the meetings, and the question is, what, because it's not, I don't think it's really well defined how those roles play out. They have an advisory board. There's 8 8 members?
Yes.
8 members. So, and Drew is chairing the meetings for them. So that's kind of where it's at, but we probably have to reconcile that at the next meeting, how we're going to transition.
And we've
Barnburner.
gotten some new board members out there and I'm trying to encourage them to be a little more proactive and like these board members are. Rather than just coming in and making statements at our bi-monthly meetings, rather get them out there in the field and take care of a few things themselves. So we're working on it, but it's in great shape and this budget will help tremendously. They made the brave decision to recommend bumping it up 2 notches from what they're currently taking of their authorized tax levy.
They're at, is it 28 cents per $100 and they could go up to 50
Yeah, so it's,
cents. So
I wish them luck
Yeah.
in the future. They should hopefully be able to,
this is a good
go out of
budget
their own-
and it's really where it should have been, kind of like the county's budget.
Yeah.
It was a little extra low for a long time and we drew down the reserves too much. And so this will rebuild the reserves and
Well, and
also
we-
get some projects back on track.
we work in concert with them and
Yeah.
at their advice, but it's our responsibility for
Correct.
some
you know,
strange reason. So
Mr. Chairman, one thing too that I would say is that outside of school districts and other levies, in regard to the levy, with the increase in construction and additional property value, the rate should go down. You have more value in the district or in the SSA as far as property value. They're building apartment units and other buildings with lots of value. It will come on to the property taxes over the next 2 or 3 years. And that additional
Sure.
value would drive your rate down because you have more property in the district. So that's not saying their tax bill goes down because there's so much more that goes into it
yeah,
as far as the school districts and other, jurisdictions. but-
minimally, I'm sure.
yeah, but there is a balancing of new property coming in. There's a lot of development in that that's still going on,
Maybe we can get that for our general fund.
new buildings.
The balance the budget. Okay, anything else on
That,
SSA?
that is
we
the
got-
last budget. So
Sweet.
you've seen the IT, you've seen the building management, GIS, capital, and Mill Creek in a summary.
Well, and we're well informed. Great. Thank you. Very good job. Very thorough. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And more data, if we need it from you, is
Yes.
available.
The reports are online with finance, all the
Anybody with a really masochistic
detail.
man, oh man. Okay. Anything else then from
Nothing,
Mr.
sir.
Fonstock? Any other business?
None.
No old business? Any comments from any of the committee members? Can I have a
Mr. Chair
motion?
Gums.
Oh, Gums?
Yes, I know it was really quiet. I was trying to absorb all the information. I want to thank for the presentation and look forward to the solutions that are provided. As I've been reassured that the challenges aren't as challenging as my brain is telling me. So, see you all next month.
Yeah, thank you. Okay,
Thank
I have motion and second to place the reports on file. Board move,
For a second.
Ross seconds. Roll call, please.
Berman, Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius.
Yes.
Yes.
No need for executive section. Motion from Berman to adjourn. Second,
Davis, second.
Davis seconds. All in favor? Aye. See you
Aye.
next month.
Aye.
Same bat station,
like looking
same
at 'em.
bat